What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about how you can reduce brain injury from boxing. This is something that's been on my mind, and it's probably on most people's mind who actually care about their health and who are considering boxing. Of course, this is about how you can reduce it. You're not going to prevent it altogether. You are getting punched in the head, but this is a video on how you can reduce it. And also, after I give you the tips, I'm going to give you guys my viewpoint on brain injuries in boxing in general, or just in health in general. First things first, if you're boxing recreationally, reduce your sparring. You don't need to spar all the time. You don't need to spar hard all the time either. Just reduce your sparring, okay? If you're not going competitively, it's not going to make you money at any point, or you're not even passionate about the sport too much, you're just doing it for self-defense or just for fun, reduce your sparring, okay? Save your brain. And if you are sparring, light sparring. Just do that. If you are sparring, if you're boxing competitively, then I recommend that you don't reduce your sparring, of course. I think sparring is very important, but you do light sparring the majority of the time. And I mean light sparring, like technical sparring. Like, not like light sparring where you say it's light sparring, but in true reality, you guys are smashing each other's heads off. No, I mean light sparring, like for real, technical sparring, strategic sparring, that type of sparring. Kind of how Muay Thai fighters train. And do that because a lot of the time, people's careers do end in the ring. That's a fact. I think that's George St. Pierre that said it. He said a lot of people's careers end in sparring. And as Conor McGregor put it, in training, you're trying to upgrade the software without damaging the hardware. And the reality is people do spark each other out in sparring a lot of the time. You might not get knocked out, but your brain is getting shook. So you need to look after yourself. Of course, hard sparring is necessary. Right? From time to time, it is necessary. I mean, maybe even weekly it's necessary. But just make sure that the majority of your sparring is technical and light. Because otherwise, you genuinely can do so much more damage in training than in fights. If you look at it, even nowadays when fighters aren't as active as they used to be, these fighters are fighting like twice a year sometimes. It's not as severe as before, but how much are you sparring in between that? Just because you got a head guard on and some thicker gloves doesn't mean that you're exempt from brain damage, okay? So minimize the sparring intensity, spar light, and potentially even spar near the beginning of your session while you're sharp. There's no point in taking unnecessary blows just because you're tired from the session. Tip number 2 is prioritize your defense. So you might be thinking, cool, you got a lot of power, whatever, you like to trade shots. That's not the wisest thing to do in general. The wisest thing is to prioritize defense. You are going to get hit. That's inevitable. But if you can get hit less, you can get less damage. So prioritize your defense. Focus on your parries, your blocks, your slips, ideally even your footwork, because you can block, but your brain is shaking a little bit still. All right, so prioritize your defense. Tip number 3 is train your neck. Okay, that's extremely important. I'm gonna make a whole separate video on training your neck as well. Of course, this is technically not entirely proven, but the theory is that if you train your neck, when you get punched, your head shakes less, your head like moves less, and therefore your brain shakes inside your skull a lot less. So train your neck. George Foreman had a pretty strong neck. I don't know what his method of training was, if he even trained his neck, but it looked pretty secure. And as you've seen, he later on in his career, on his comeback, this guy was getting shot. Like, he was getting hit blow after blow after blow. He was getting beat on. But at 70 plus years old, this guy still sounds sharp. Obviously, he has brain damage. It's just something that you probably can't see. You know, his brain is obviously not as optimal condition, but it's definitely something that's not visible to us. So definitely train your neck. The next one is stay hydrated. Don't weight cut. Cutting weight too much to gain an advantage over someone is not the most advantageous thing for them, for one, but also for yourself. Don't be a weight bully. Well, you know, I'm not really going to talk about that. But for yourself, cutting weight, you see, we got fluid in our skull. It helps cushion our brain. When you get rid of that fluid, you got no cushion. So you're going to get punched and your head's going to move and your brain's going to be shaking inside your skull with no cushioning. That drastically increases your risk of brain damage. So stop. Stay hydrated. Don't dehydrate yourself before a fight. And then last but not least, and this is one of the most important tips, obviously sparring is very important and everything else, but this is one of the most important, is bring no honor into the ring. I know it sounds great. You know, this guy got dropped 3 times. He got right back up and knocked down his opponent. It's not about the guy who never got knocked down. It's about the guy who got knocked down. I don't know how many times, but got back up. That's not relevant in the ring. Your brain doesn't care about your honor. I mean, personally, I think it should be a mandatory thing that 2 knockdowns if you get hit to the brain, and that's it. Okay, that's my personal opinion. If you get hit to the body, that's different. If you get hit to the head, you get a concussion, there should be no reason for you to get right back up and fight. I don't care if you make the 8 count. If you make it once, maybe you can say, all right, cool, he didn't get concussed, maybe he tripped a little bit, whatever. The second time, that should be it. You never see somebody get in a car crash. Obviously, this ain't gonna happen in general, but you get in a car crash, get concussion, ambulance helps you out, or whatever, doctors help you out. They say, hey, start driving again. And you drive again, you get another car crash. Like, oh man, that's a shame. Hey, hop into your car again and drive again. You know what I'm saying? That's like literally getting in your car, getting a concussion, hopping back into your car, getting another one, and then getting a series of concussions. Deontay Wilder got dropped by Tyson Fury like 5 times. That's crazy. Your brain doesn't care about your honor. And the reality is the fans might be gassed. Like, oh wow, this guy, he got dropped and he came right back up and whatever, and he fought an amazing battle. But the reality is they're going to forget you. They might not. You know, might have people like Muhammad Ali, never forgotten. But you also might be someone like Jerome McClellan. The fans forgot him. And that's such a shame, for real, like such a shame. An amazing fighter, and Don King screwed the guy over and everything. But my point is, if you bring honor into the ring, you do nothing for yourself. It's a great story, but not great health, right? So bring that honor into the ring. I hope these tips help. This is something that's been on my mind even before I started boxing. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, should I compete? Blah, blah, blah. How can I mitigate the risk and everything like that? So I thought I'd help you guys out, because some of you guys might be interested in boxing. Some of you guys might be boxing and still concerned about it. I'm going to give you guys my take though. I'm aware that getting blows to the head repeatedly will lead to some form of CTE or some form of brain damage. But the reality is though, I'm not overly concerned. I'm concerned as to how to minimize it. But I'm not at the point where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to fight at all. I'm not going to do any form of combat because I want to keep my brain at optimal function, because I'm aware that, look, we're going to die. Our bodies are deteriorating anyway. I can refrain from boxing, and so can you, you know, if you're someone who's interested in boxing. But when you turn 70, you might get Alzheimer's or something. Your brain will not necessarily be in perfect condition. It's the same with any type of sport. You can be like, oh, don't do this, or you get injured. Look, you get injured anyway. I know people with knee injuries who never play sports. I know a man who's literally disabled right now. He's in a wheelchair, cannot walk, and he was in a coma for ages as well, right? He didn't box a day in his life. This guy never played sports professionally either, right? Just got diabetes. So my point is, your health is never going to be perfect your whole life anyway. So you can either like resist the urge to do any type of sport because you're scared of injuries and, oh, what about my brain? And then get Alzheimer's when you're 80. Shame. And then you're like, man, I should have just boxed. Should go on my CTE and got the money that came with it, or at least the enjoyment that came with it. Maybe you didn't get money from it, but the enjoyment that came with it. Or you could be like, oh, let me stay away from sports. You know, I want to make sure that, for example, I don't know, what if I get some spinal injury or whatever, and then you get in a car crash and then now you're in a wheelchair as well. What do you do about that? Like that guy I know who got diabetes. What is he going to do now? You know, he didn't even box. But that's my point, you know. Like, we deteriorate. I think sometimes we're too overly attached with keeping our bodies perfect. That's why people, you know, get Botox and things like that, because they don't want anything to go wrong with their skin. They don't want their skin to wrinkle. Look, I accept I'm going to die. That's my take, though. I'm not saying that should be your take. I just want to give you guys some of my take on you know, boxing and the risk involved. I still try my best to mitigate risk. I still train my neck. Don't dehydrate. And if I ever did get dropped in the ring, well, I'll leave that for another video. It's B4Flex, and I'm out.